Highlight your favorite team, company logo, or whatever you're looking for. One client said, they took my logo and made it better. Easily work with them and create exactly what you envision, or give them artistic freedom to create something incredible. Many of these attention-grabbing pieces are displayed in spaces of Cubs players, businesses, and corporate offices. Find Fly the Wood Designs on social at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also contact the wood artist, Bill Watts, at woodflags1@gmail.com. Fly the Wood, fan cave, bar, and home decor.
So I got definitely. His daughter, big boy.
Let's get ready to rumble.
We're Cubs fans helping Cubs fans.
Okay.
At Stewart's Cubs skate parties.
They're going to buy 2 tickets.
Everybody
So we're gonna make the tickets. We're gonna sell 200
back
at
to those in need. We're going to Club 400.
Well, let's say
We're going to Club 400. We're going to Club 400 Radio. All right.
And the Chicago Club 400 podcast is on the air. William, big news tonight. Big news. If you're listening to this podcast right now, how many podcasts have we done, William?
135.
This is 136 is the biggest, without a doubt.
That's a big one.
So we told you guys we are celebrating 10 years of Club 400. 10 years of Cub fans helping Cub fans. We already gave you guys an unbelievable trip that we haven't went on yet. William, we already have about 60 people going on this event. Are you ready to go to Kansas City?
Pure baseball
Are you
barbecue.
Are you staying at the dojo? Can you tell everybody about the dojo,
I will be
William?
at the dojo.
Can you tell us about the dojo?
I can tell
no
you
one
about
even
the
knows
dojo.
about the dojo.
The
It's
dojo.
secret.
It's going to be the home base for the
Club
trip,
400.
For Club 400 for our trip in end of June, right?
End of July.
End of July.
By the way, William, it would be nice if you could actually sign up, okay?
Oh, boy. I am signed up.
I mean, I haven't seen any money.
I paid for the dojo.
Oh, you paid for the dojo. So you guys aren't staying at the dojo. If you're coming to the event, you guys are staying at the hotel.
I will answer your question.
The Hilton Presidente.
The dojo is a building owned by Eric Berry, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, who's great friends with Brian McRae, formerly of the Chicago Cubs and Kansas City Royals. And Brian hooked us up with the dojo. It's a like VRBO type place, and that's going to be our
a pimp place. It's
pimped
got
out
all
party
kind of
place.
kind of like party.
Yeah.
Let's think like
Think
game
party.
room. Think of like a awesome
party.
gangster party place,
Yeah.
right?
It's going to be awesome.
But yeah,
The whole
so-
trip's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
I
you
cannot
know
wait
what?
for
And
it.
it's moving. We had about 6 people sign up this week. That's
Okay,
not bad.
that's good.
So we're up to about 60 people. We want 90, but we're fine with 60.
I got some leads on some others I'm going to work on over the next week while you're floating away in a boat.
So Kansas City trip at club400cubs.com. Go there now and reserve your room. Why wouldn't you? Like, it's going to be epic.
Well, there might be a reason you wouldn't
What?
do it right now, is because there might be a little money conflict because
Oh yeah, there's something.
we got a big announcement for tonight.
Are you?
later.
If you're listening to the podcast right now, we got a password for you that we're going to give you later on, and you're going to be able to buy tickets tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And we will give you the password, but you got to wait. We're not going to give it to you right away, right? Well, I mean, we like making people wait.
Yeah. And you know what?
I know patience. Trust me. I've learned a lot of patience in the last 2.5 years.
This promises to be the most epic event at
gonna be the
Club
best.
400 to date,
Yes,
by far.
without a doubt.
It's not even close.
Wait,
right?
but before we do that, we got July 26th, July 27th in Kansas City. Go to the website right now, up there. But before we talk about the biggest, baddest
Big bang.
event at Club 400 ever, like, I don't care where you live, you might want to fly out for this one.
Right.
Save the date. August 8th. Our next Club 400 event after this Club 400. William, did I just say two events? We got two events?
It sounds like two events in a trip to me. I don't know.
I think so.
My head is spinning. That's why I can't remember dates anymore. There's so much happening at Club 400 in year 10.
All right, let me come down a little bit.
All right. Shake your shoulders a little, you know.
All right.
I wish everybody could see these exercises. Mr. McVicker is currently.
I'm a little jacked up because I'm excited to tell everybody what's going on here.
Right. And you're going on vacation.
But there's reasons. This is an emotional moment for me, man. It really is. This is like huge. Like, I don't know why. Like the start, sometimes everything has to align to be perfect, right? And 10 years ago, we started this voyage on a mission to raise $1 million. Didn't really think how it would all line up, right? But I opened Club 400 in 2013, and many people came into this place and said, man, you need to do something with this place. 2014, we start doing charity with Nick Sheridan. 10 years later, $851,000 given away. Over 50 Cub players at Club 400. We brought Sammy Sosa back to Chicago. We helped bring Sammy Sosa back to Chicago for the fans. We look forward to having an announcement on an event with Sammy Sosa soon. That will happen, I promise you. But we got bigger things to do right now. Open it up for public. I can't tell you how many people I've met. Walked through the doors of my house. I just met so many people. And everybody has a story. You have a story. I have a story. Everybody has a story. I hear a lot of those stories. Sometimes too much, William. You're having a party and someone's telling you a 5-minute story. It's like, I got to go. But everybody wants to tell you their story.
I got to be over here.
One of the stories I've always heard, and the reason why I'm a Cub fan today is, I turned the channel to WGN, and I heard Harry Carey get all crazy.
And something resonated in your soul. In your soul.
And his love and enthusiasm rated it out of the TV. And boom, I was a Cub fan. And then 1984 comes. And it changed my life forever. And I'll tell you what, it changed a lot of yours. Because I can't tell you how many people that I've met that said, I became a Cubs fan because of 1984. I know that I went to fantasy camp. I know a lot of the campers. And they became Cub fans because it was either 69 or 84. What was between that, William? Not much, right? So you're either a 69 guy or an 84 guy.
Unless you're super, super young in Generation Z, and then you're a 2016 guy, probably. Would be my guess.
They don't know the pain, man.
They do not know. They do not know about
They don't know the
lovable
pain.
losers.
They don't know the struggle. Let's face it, guys. Club 400 is proud to present 1984 Chicago Cubs reunion.
Wait, what did you just say?
I said June 25th, 6 to 10, Club 400, we will be celebrating the 1984 Eastern Division champions, the Chicago Cubs, a team that not only changed the culture of Wrigley Field, but the Cubs as we know it forever.
So I think what I hear you saying is that you're going to invite people over here and you're going to have like a bunch of old films and stuff that we're going to watch to celebrate that night?
We're going to have a party, William. We're going to have a ain't no party like a Club 400 party because the Club 400 party don't stop. There ain't no party like a Club 400 party when you got the 1984 Chicago Cubs at your house drinking beer with you.
In the house. Wow.
Can you believe it?
No.
Oh, my gosh.
No, and we'll later on in the show we're gonna go.
And we got them, and we're working on it, guys. We're working on the list. We got Jody, we got Liam, we got Warren, we got all kinds of guys. You'll hear about them later in the show. We're bringing on our good friend Bob Ibeck. We've been working on this event with Tony Garofalo too, who wasn't here tonight, but you'll hear from Bob Ibeck later, and we're gonna tell you guys a whole lot more of what's going on. But personally, I gotta tell you about just the craziness of being able to put together an event like this in a short amount of time. We're obviously riding it off the coattails of our good friend Lou Sellas and Ryan Sandberg's special day, June 23rd. As you guys know, big day, probably the biggest day at Wrigley Field this year, William, right?
I would say so, yes.
The newest statue will be added to Statue Row in Gallagher Way, and it will be one of my favorite players of all time.
Number 23.
Ryan Sandberg.
Number 23. Your second baseman.
So the thought process was why these guys were in town. They need to come to Club 400.
Let's throw them a party.
So we're throwing them a party. And you know what? Like I said, the Cubs are doing a lot of great things. And they're, like I know of all the things they're doing a lot of great things. They really are. But there's a baseball season going on too. So we're working with the Cubs on this, and we're going to have, like I said, a great event that you guys can be a part of, and that you guys can rub elbows with your heroes, with the reason why you are a Cub fan. You know, as you know, these guys, especially the 84 guys, are just good people. Like, I become friends with 3 or 4 of them. Like, people I consider friends, you know, and I'm looking forward to meeting more of these guys, some of the lesser-known names, and just really celebrating the remarkable achievements they made that year. Like I said, they may not have won it all, but I think they changed the culture and the Chicago Cubs forever. William, what do you got to say?
I say we should get Bob on here and talk about the event itself, and maybe have him tell a few stories from the 84 team.
I do. And I will say this, tickets go on sale tomorrow. We at 12 o'clock for all the podcast listeners. You will see us announce this event on social media tomorrow. For tickets on sale Friday, we expect to sell out. We are selling 200 tickets at $300 a piece. And it's going to be pretty much come to Club 400, hang out for 4 hours. We got Pino Farino band playing. Unbelievable. We just booked them with Marty. The Salsa King of Chicago will be here, giving away tons of salsa, the best salsa. That's why you got to have good salsa at your parties. Old Style will be a part of this event for sure. Our good friend Jeff Vukovic, Nationwide Insurance, will be a part of it. We got way more news, guys. But I am going on a little trip. See you later, William. And we had to get this stuff out, okay? Yes, we had to get this stuff out. And we had to put tickets on sale because I'm going on a little boat ride, okay? So, William, you got to do what you got to do. I'm going on a boat ride, but we're selling tickets this Friday. And you guys, like I said, this is going to be a party that you need to come to. You need to reserve a hotel room out here. You need to make sure this is never going to happen again. You're never going to have this many 1984 Cubs in a public setting like this ever again. I promise you. If you are a Cubs fan because of the 1984 Cubs and you can't make it to this party,
this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I feel bad for you. And you know what? Like always, guys, we ain't trying to rip anybody off here at Club 400. I think $300 for what we're going to give you that day, and money is going to go to charity, and we'll have information on where that money is going to go to soon. Obviously, we want to put it somewhere towards prostate cancer, William, because that's what we need to do. That's the right thing to do. We want to honor Rhino, so we'll figure that out as we go. But your money is going to go to the right place. You're going to have an unbelievable time. I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Ann Williams. We were just at his man cave last week, right, William?
Yes, we were.
And let's bring on our good friend, Bob Ibeck.
It's been a long
Rightly faithful, always kept the spirit alive.
And now's the time, and here's the place we even up the score.
Sing it, up, the hopes are high, and the penny will fly over Wrigley Field once more.
There's been a lot of talk about the lights at Wrigley Park, but once we're both, we don't care. We'll play it in the dark.
And one more thing before we leave that we'll be telling you.
We'll keep 'em flying high for Cubby Blue.
Well, here's to you, men in blue. You're the cream of the crop. You're a team built on dreams. You'll go right to the top. And as sure as there's ivy on the center field wall, the men in blue are gonna win it all.
You know we've heard a lot of others say that Cubby's on for real.
Well, that's okay with us if that's the way they want to feel. But we're on top and looking down and picking out more steam. From where we stand, we're America's real team. It's been a long, long time since 1945. But the Wrigley faithful always kept the spirit alive. And one more thing before we leave that we'll be telling you. We'll keep 'em flying high for Cubby Blue.
Well, here's to you, men in blue. You're the cream of the crop. You're a team built on dreams. You'll go right to the top. And as sure as there's ivy on the center field wall, the men in blue are gonna win it all. Well, here's to you, men in blue. You're the cream of the crop. You're a team built on dreams. You'll go right to the top. And as sure as there's ivy on the center field wall, the men in blue are gonna win it all. Well, here's to you, men in blue. You're the cream of the crop. You're a team built on dreams. You'll go right to the top. And as sure as there's ivy on the center field wall, the men in blue are gonna win it all.
All right, we're introducing you to one of my great friends. He actually lives down the street and has been on this podcast many a times, and he's a big part of why we're doing this right now.
That's our great friend, Stu. not
Our
your
great friend, yeah. And he worked for the Cubs actually from 1981 to 1989. He was the public relations director, and he actually did all the publications. One of the proudest things, so he's done a lot of great things, but he was the inventor of the Vine line, which was one of my favorite magazines for many, many years.
Which
and,
I was a subscriber from day one.
I think he was the creator of the Die Hard Fan Club also, was it right?
I helped a lot on that too in the very beginning. Yeah.
Let's bring in a good friend, Bob Ibeck. Bob, thanks for coming on the podcast, man, and I'm excited to tell everybody about what we're doing here with the 84 Cubs, man.
Well, Stu and William, it's a pleasure to be here. I've spent quite a few evenings here that I still socially remember, as I left. And
at least the beginning of the party. Right?
Exactly, yeah. It's always a happy ending, But no, it's great to be, and I'm just looking forward to what we're going to be talking about tonight. And the rest of the Cubs season, because I've seen enough games this year to know that if they get some back end help in the bullpen and maybe get a couple of people healthy, this can be a contending team.
I mean, to get out of that West Coast trip as healthy as they are, over 500, hey, the sky's the limit. I agree with you, Bob.
I only wish somebody would have predicted that Michael Bush was going to be good in spring training, by the way.
What a great pickup that was. But, yeah, we're here. Bob, 40 years since 1984. Does it seem like 40 years to you? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
Well, it makes me feel old. Well, I am old. I'll be 76 in May. And, I don't know where the years have gone. But, it's 1984. And what a season. I mean, we broke spring training that year, and we were horrible. 7-20. And Jim Fry, the manager, we all wondered what was going to become with the Chicago Cubs, because I had lived through a couple earlier seasons with the great Lee Ilya, and I was there for the tirade, so I said, oh, no, not another miserable season. We're going to get out of Arizona, and what are we going to do now? But we broke from there and had just a heck of a start, and it was on the West Coast when we started. We had to go out. We had to go first to San Francisco. Then we played San Diego and the Dodgers, and we somehow came back, and we weren't, I thought maybe we'd be on those 9 games. We might be, 1-8 coming back the way we played in spring training. But it turned out that, we had a really good start. I think it was 5-4 on that trip, and we never had a losing month the rest of the year. I wrote this down coming into the show tonight to look at the months, the consistency that we had. We were 12-8 in April, 15-12 in May, 15-14 in June. And, of course, that's when Sandberg hit that home run on the 23rd against St. Louis and Suter. And things took off. We went 18-10 in July, 20-10 in August, and 16-11. Wow. We ended up with 96 wins. And it was just an amazing year. And everything really came into, I think, where it should be at the end of July when we played the New York Mets that time in a 4-game series. And I'll never forget one of the key moments in that, and we'll get to some other things and highlights during the year, but I always remember when I reflect back on that year, I can still see Ed Lynch, who was pitching on the mound for the Mets, and he buzzed one in on Ryan Sandberg, and Zonk wasn't going to take it. He took off like he was still playing football down in Texas, and that man went out not head first, but he just roll blocked. And down goes Lynch, and the rest of the teams jumped in. There was a melee around the mound. But that was the kind of the message that we sent to the New York Mets that, guess what? We're not folding. This is not going to be 1969, and we mean business. And we went on to do our business in August and September.
I mean, such a magical year, and I've said it before, but that 84 team, I think it changed not only Cubs baseball, but Wrigley Field and that area forever. I mean, that just changed Chicago Cubs baseball, in my opinion. That's what brought me in as a Cub fan.
You're so right. I was just talking to Richie Hebner today, and we were talking about some of the things that transpired prior to Richie coming there in 1984, and I told him the story because Hacker had played with the Pittsburgh Pirates and with Willie Stargell. So now Stargell comes into Wrigley Field in September of, it was 82, was going to be his final games at Wrigley Field. So I was out, I had a microphone behind home plate. We were going to make a nice little ceremony for Willie and salute him on his final stand in Wrigley Field. And I'm looking at, and we only had about 5,000 people there that day. So it was a typical cold September day. And I looked down the left field line and the right field line, and there was scattering of people down there, a few behind home plate. Willie looks at me and he said, "Boy, there are not too many fans here today." He says, "Hang on a second, give me the microphone." He goes out in the microphone and he asks all the people down the left field line and the right field line to come in behind home plate. We're going to have like a high school assembly.
No way.
Yeah. So
he got on the Wrigley Field microphone?
Yeah. So he calls down the line, and all of a sudden, all these people that were sitting in the not the cheap seats, but the cheap box seats all the way down the line, they're coming in, and it looks like a high school assembly. You would have sworn if you were looking at the game that day, and that we had 30,000 sellout between the two dugouts. So now everything gets done. We make the announcement. Willie thanks everybody. It's time to go on and play ball. I look, and everybody's not moving. They're staying right behind home plate.
Of course.
So
if you're invited to go there.
I take a few steps toward the dugout, and the phone rings. It's Arnie Harris. He's upstairs, and whatever's doing is doing, and looking at the cameras.
Looking for the ladies in the crowd.
Yeah, looking for the ladies, spotting them out. There's not too many that day. And he says, "Iback, you got to move those people back to where they came from." He says, "Get on the microphone and tell them to go back to their seats." I said, "Arnie, I am not doing that. I got to get up to the press box. You have a nice day. We'll talk to you later." It turns out that Arnie could not use any of his cameras down the line because it would look like they're not playing. Nobody's there. And there's hardly anybody in the bleachers. It's cold. So the whole game was played with the center field camera looking straight in. You'd hear a foul ball going down the left field or right field line. The camera stayed right on the guy at home plate.
I never heard that one before, Bob. That's a good one.
Wow.
I mean, could you tell, Bob, that year? I mean, obviously, June 23rd was a historic day in Cubs history. Obviously, the Ryan Sandberg game, and pretty much, put Ryan Sandberg on the map, put him in, that was the beginning of Ryan Sandberg. But when did you feel like, was that the day you felt like something was special, or was it another day? When did you feel like this team, was going to win the division and do what they did, capture the hearts of Chicago?
Well, it was early, and we broke camp, like I said. I had a 7-20 record in spring training, and we were in desperate need of just some couple players. We had to make a trade. We had to do something. And that's when we got Sarge Matthews and Bobby Dernier, okay? And they were both there in the opening lineup on opening day. And it was probably – that helped us on that West Coast trip get off to a start. And then, of course, later on we get Eckersley and we get Sutcliffe. And, it just took off from there. Now we had a rotation to go with Scotty Sanderson and with Dick Ruthven and with goofy Steve Trout. And we had a good fivesome. And so you would avoid these long losing streaks. And that was the key thing. And now Lee Smith was throwing bullets, as a relief pitcher. And we had some formidable guys in the bullpen like Frazier and a couple others, Stoddard. And it became a respectable club. But there was, Ronnie Say's now at third base. Bo was on his last couple legs at shortstop. But we helped him out a little bit that year because the groundskeeper, Luby Veal, decided with Say, who was not quick a foot, and Boa, who was up there in years, we cut the grass a little higher. Or I should say we didn't cut the grass. And so hard balls that were going to left field became a little slower, and we made a lot more 6-3s and 5-3s, at first base. And that was a good thing. And Sandberg, of course, did his thing at second base. And it was amazing because I still look back when I first came there, and I think of Sandberg breaking in as a third baseman and going, I think, 1 for 30 his first April. And I'll never forget Dallas Green telling me, he says, now listen, we got to send this kid back to Des Moines. He's not making it. And he says, go prepare a press release, and we're going to, send him out in the next day or two. Well, as luck would have it for Rhino, the guy at AAA down in Des Moines was pulled a groin, and he couldn't come up. It'd take a few days or maybe a week. So we had to stick with Sandberg. And Rhino goes out at the beginning of May. He goes out and gets 2 hits the first day, then he gets 3, then he gets 2. At the end of the week, Dallas came to me. He says, that press release that you had prepared to send out Sandberg? He said, stick it where the sun don't shine. He says, we ain't sending the kid back. Sandberg ended up winning the Cubs Player of the Month award. And I was part of the ceremony behind home plate with it was a jewelry store, Henry K. Jewelers.
Okay.
And the guy who owned Henry K. was out there in the field with me, and gave me the presentation along with Sandberg of a crushed velvet box with the jewelry, and it was a pendant, okay? And so Rondo accepts it. He didn't talk too much in those days. And he says to me, he says, Bob, Cindy, his then wife, was sitting right behind home plate, not home plate, but behind the Cubs dugout. He says, would you bring it over and give it to her? So I brought it over. I said, Cindy, Rhino would like you to have this and keep it in your possession. She opens it up, looks at it. Oh, not a lot of big diamonds in here. It looks a little small. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to be a good day in the Sandberg household. I said, well, I got to go up to the press box. Have a nice day, Cindy.
You mentioned earlier about their consistency month by month. I remember vividly, my dad, that was in my younger years. My dad was a big baseball fan, and I was all excited about the 84 Cubs. And he's like, early in the season, as long as they win most every series, they'll be fine. I feel like from that moment on, that was probably in May, they won every series. I mean, it was that consistent. I remember just game after game, series after series, adding up to the month.
You're right. We had a little bit of a stretch, I think, in the beginning of August where we sagged. I think we lost maybe 5 or 6 games out of 8, but we really didn't have any long droughts. And I attribute that to the starting pitching and, of course, Lee Smith. I mean, one starter would try to outperform the next starter, and each one had their own style. I mean, Sutcliffe only lost 1 game that year after we got him coming over from Cleveland. And Eckersley pitched his way. That was before he became a relief pitcher years later. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell the story on Eck because I always laugh when I told him when he was going in the Hall of Fame, he went in principally because he became a great relief pitcher with Oakland.
Right.
And I'll never forget the day Dallas had asked me and Ned Coletti, my assistant, to bring down some reports on what his velocity was in the first 4 innings of every ball game and how it fell off later on. So we go down to Jim Fry, and Dallas suggested, as my memory recalls, he says, Skip, I think we should maybe think about making Eck a relief pitcher. Well, Fry, I can always see it. He always rose his left hand up with his finger, and he said, Dallas, there's no effing way that Dennis Eckersley will ever become a relief pitcher.
Whoops.
Well, I wonder what Tony La Russa said in Oakland about that. I told that story later to Eck. Eck, when he went into the Hall of Fame, he said, maybe you should tell that story up here. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it because Fry could be out there with a gun. I don't want to be anywhere near him.
I mean, part of the thing about the 84 Cubs to me as a young kid, which, by the way, I turned on WGN on accident, and then I heard Harry Carey get all excited, and it just sucked me in. But I think part of it was the 84 team. I mean, it was different. Baseball was different back then. It was a whole different game, and the front office, too. The conditions that you worked in are a whole different. One of these days, we got to get you on a separate podcast just because you were there when the fax machines were taking the season ticket order forms in. It was by fax machine. Are you kidding me, guys? Right? This is how long Bob's been there for. He was there before the internet was there, Yeah. So, Bob, it was mailing, all the publications that you did. Bob, you did a lot of amazing things with the Cubs, and you were there, like I said, for the transformation of the Cubs. But part of the thing that sucked me in, I think all 9 of those starters, they had a personality. At least to me, they did. They all had some kind of nickname. They all had something going for them. And as a young kid, man, to have these guys, win as much as they did, and each one of them have their own personality and nickname, it was really a special season, They
kind of remind me a little bit of the 85 Bears in that vein, with all the different personalities and all of that coming together to
right.
To show you how archaic things were back then, I mean, we had typewriters. That's how I did my press notes every day. We go on the road and to take and do 9 pages of press notes that you were going to give to the visiting PR guy, because Steve Brenner, the guy out in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, always liked to say, well, we put out more press notes than anybody else in the league, Well, the Cubs up to that point, when we went to Cincinnati in 1982, Ned and I went into Cincinnati for the opening series.
Ned Coletti, yep.
Yeah, and with Ned Coletti, who was later the Dodgers general manager. We went in, and Jim Ferguson was the PR director there with the Reds. And we handed Jim like 6 or 8 pages of press notes. He gets on the microphone in the press box. He says, "Attention media, this is a very historic day in Cincinnati baseball history. The Chicago Cubs showed up with press notes."
Oh, wow.
No way, really?
They didn't have them before.
Wow.
No.
And this was all done on typewriter, Bob. Were you typing this stuff out? Like, you should see some of the stuff that I have. Like, for instance, I just got myself a copy of the 1984 postseason press notes. That was all done on typewriter.
Everything.
Single hole punch, copied, right, Bob?
Right. And
unbelievable. Like, I mean, you had to have a lot of racing tape back then.
Well,
they go back and all those stats and stuff.
We had they allowed us one typewriter when Ned and I would go on the road. So Ned and I would divide up every day. Okay, you're going to do this part. I'm going to do the pitching. I'm going to do the quickies, press notes. You do the first page. I'll do the second. So I would sit up in my hotel room, order breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, or if not earlier, and I'd type out 4 or 5 pages, and then I bring it down to Ned. I always wanted to do mine first because Coletti was addicted to whiteout. And he would mess up on the typewriter, and if he did the press notes first and brought the typewriter up, I had to take a rag to go ahead and erase from the top of the keys because it wouldn't come out. I said, Ned, what are you doing? Sniffing this stuff down there? What are you doing? But we have to, instead of going ahead like computers a day, let's take Rick Sutcliffe. We'd have all his, his last 5 starts. Well, all that had to be retyped every time.
Right.
Today you'd have it and store it and just go to do the last game. And it was amazing. While we're doing that, Ned and I were also planning what was going to go in the next edition of the souvenir program because we had 6 of those once every month. Then I started later on having to figure out what's going to go in the Vine line. And on top of that, we always had to do the yearbook. And we did the Cubs caravan in the off season. And I had Ned, Sharon Panazzo, myself, and at one time an 85-year-old cinematographer who passed over and had a stroke, and we released him to another land. Barney Sterling, may God rest him. But no, it was, now you look at the roster of how many people are in public relations and marketing.
I know.
And it's like 30 people.
Yeah, 30 people did your job back in 1984 or 81 to 89. I mean, honestly, like the stuff that this guy put, and you know, Bob, and let's face it, like obviously you're the PR director and you were the guy head of publications, but you wore way more many hats than that because you dealt with a lot of stuff. You dealt with, a lot of stuff.
Well,
and this podcast is specifically about the 84 Cubs, but me and Bob's have had wonderful conversations about a lot of things. We need to have him on Mr. Iback on another podcast online because he's got so many great stories. But you know, one of the things I looked at when we were putting this list together, Bob, was the coaches, and no one's alive anymore. And the one guy that stuck out to me, and I would want you to tell the listeners of the Club 400 podcast about Dallas Green, about what kind of person he was, because we've had these conversations privately, but a lot of people don't know who Dallas Green is. And you met Dallas Green when you worked for the Philadelphia Journal as an editor. And you wrote a book about the Philadelphia Phillies called 1980 when they won the World Series, The Comeback Kids. It's just, you're well known for that book. That's how you met Dallas. But tell us what Dallas means to you and what he meant to the Cubs organization overall.
Well, I would never have been in baseball without Dallas Green because he became a friend of mine in Philadelphia. And I was just floored when he gave me a call in late October, early November of 1981, and he says, Iback, I want you to come to Chicago. I've just been hired by the general manager. I'm going to be the GM. I want you to be my PR director. And I said, Dallas, I'm a sports writer. I'm a broadcaster. You know, the only thing I know about PR is when the PR guys from other teams come into town take me out for dinner for a steak. I said, so I'm going to be somebody that brings people out for steaks? He says, no. He says, remember this. You know how you wanted to be treated as a sports writer and the information that you needed. Now just turn it around. Best piece of information you ever gave me. And he says, service them the same way you wanted to be serviced when you were covering the Orioles or covering the Phillies. Best piece of advice. Dallas, to me, was like, he reminded me so much, and as he got older, when his hair turned different color toward gray and then white, of John Wayne. He was a big John Wayne. When Dallas Green came into a room, it was like, was it H.F. Hutton? Remember that commercial? E.F. Hutton?
E.F. Hutton.
The room stopped. He had that kind of a presence.
When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen.
Yes, and Dallas came in, and when we adopted the thing later on, building a new tradition, he would literally look over your shoulder as you were doing things, never criticizing too much. But he always said to me, he said, listen, I was a pitcher in baseball when he broke in. He had a pretty good fastball, too. He threw close to 98. He was erratic, but he threw hard. He then he was a scout. He was a scouting director with the Phillies, and he held an assortment of jobs till he became the manager. And he said, I've been around the game a long time. You can't BS me. He says, don't ever try it. He says, all I ask you to do is do whatever it takes. That was his slogan, do whatever it takes to get the job done. He said, if you want to go to spring training and you bring your golf clubs out with you and you want to get out there one day and play golf, hey, do it. Have you done your whole work that day? Well, I never played a round of golf or even one hole of golf when I was out with the Chicago Cubs because
you didn't have time?
Well, I didn't have time, and I didn't want to see this guy chasing me around the golf course, because Dallas said, do whatever it takes to get the job done. But he was also a soft guy when it came to families. He always wanted to know, how's your son doing? How's your wife doing? He was a family guy, and he regarded the people in the front office and who worked all the long hours, not necessarily the players. I'm talking about front office, from ticket takers to groundskeepers, the little guys in the game that make the game go around.
Right.
They were family to him, and he always had a pat in the back for him. He knew everybody's name, and he's just a really cool guy. I can't say enough about Dallas Green. He meant the world to me. He was like my second dad.
And how much do you know? I mean, he's the one who orchestrated this team. I mean, how much credit do you give him for this '84 team? I mean, he's the man, right? He did. I mean,
well, the '84 team, and he got the trades done. But the thing about it was, Tribune Company was the owner in those days, and they were very buttoned down, budget minded. And if truth be told, Matthews and Denier would have been with us 2 years earlier than they ended up being, because we had made a trade with Paul Owens, the Pope, as he was known, the general manager of the Phillies, back in '82. Dallas shook hands with him. That was his old boss. And Tribune Company comes back and says, well, this is going to put you $600 over budget, or whatever the number was. It was more than that.
Come on.
And we can't do that. And Dallas says, I'm not here to get you from 5th place to 4th place. I'm here to win the thing.
Right.
Let's go out and do it. Well, that original trade with Philadelphia, and this is the irony. Most people don't know this. Had we made that original trade with Philly in 1982 and obtained Denier and Matthews then, okay, and not done it before the '84 season, the only player in that original deal that was not involved in the deal that we finally made was our first baseman, Leon Durham.
Yeah.
Leon Durham would not have been in San Diego on October the 7th when the ball went through his legs. And not to criticize Bull, but it's ironic he would not have been there. Now, the guy that probably would have been there was another guy that let the ball through his legs with a different team. That would have been Bill Buckner.
Yeah, right.
So, hey, it all evens out.
I do have to say one thing that's amazing based on what you've talked about is even the reach. So my very quick becoming a Cubs story, I became a Cubs fan when the Twins moved into the Metrodome, because it wasn't the same. It wasn't baseball to me. So I decided I needed to cheer for another team. I looked at who was closest. I wasn't going to cheer for the Brewers. They were in the same division. So Chicago. I hate the White Sox. So I was like, I can be a Cubs fan. Started becoming a fan, and it's really thanks to WGN, like you said, and Vine Line Magazine. That's what hooked me in '82, and by '84, it was a frenzy. So that was like all the work you guys did. It wasn't just for here; it was nationwide, which is completely unique at the time, and even today it's different because it's all over everything, every game, and all that. But
well, you mentioned the Twins, and I loved Harmon Killebrew, Bob Allison, and Earl Batty, and those guys, because when I moved from New York City in the Bronx, I was 9 years old. We came to Washington, D.C., Rockville, Maryland. And I went from the penthouse rooting for the Yankees to the outhouse rooting for the Washington Senators. And I always used to tell my dad, I said, what have you done? Look at the garbage we got here. Well, when we first arrived going to Griffith Stadium, Killebrew was just starting to come on with Jim Lemon and some of those guys. And then, of course, they bailed and went out. We got an expansion team. And that always bothered me, But when I look back at the Chicago Cubs, and what we inherited was this losing attitude, okay, and the lovable losers, and we had to change that around. And from the very first press conference, we came up with the slogan, "Building a New Tradition." And I'll never forget, my first press conference was held downtown at the Hyatt Regency. And this was
a good one.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what.
This is a great one.
I didn't know why I didn't leave them my job that day, because.
So this is before the season starts, before you guys go, before the convention, before the this is the debut.
The deal was we're going to introduce the new Cubs uniform. Had the blue tops on them and everything else, and we're bringing back Fergie Jenkins for his second time around, and Fergie's going to be the model. So I got with Fergie, and I told him, I said, you're going to be back in the right-hand corner, okay, which happened to be like the lunchroom or the whatever. And he says, when I give you a signal, you'll come out with the new uniform top. The spotlight will be on you and everything else. So I asked around, and I was new. I came there in like November, so I didn't know everybody. But I said, who is the guy in charge of photography and so forth. And they saw, oh, it's Barney Sterling. Well, Barney was 85. He'd been there forever. I think he went back to the days of Honus Wagner. And but Barney, I said, Barney, I need some really good footage of Fergie throwing when he was with the Cubs in the 60s. Bob, I got some great stuff. I'll set it up. Well, in those days, it was reel to reel. And he's got the projector and everything else. So first mistake, I didn't go ahead and I didn't have enough time, or I wasn't thinking along that line. I figured, well, this guy's been around for a long time. Will give me some good stuff. So we get to the day of the press conference. Now I got behind me a screen that won't stay all the way down from the ceiling. So I had Buck Peden, one of the guys in marketing.
So it didn't lock.
It didn't lock down.
Right.
So I said, Buck, I need you to hold this down, and when I go on, because I'm going to have to be turning and giving out what I'm showing off the projector from Barney to the media who was standing out in front of me over here. Now, way back in the back, we had a big sign that says "Building a New Tradition," and of course, Dallas is back there with his arms folded, looking straight ahead. So I'm thinking, oh boy, it's like the Wizard of Oz is back there. Okay. So now the projector starts, and I'm thinking, okay, there's going to be some action, Fergie. And I look, and to my horror, I said, you see Fergie winding up, coming to a set position, checking over to first, and then doing it all over again. I said, it didn't take me long to figure out this is a pitching clinic machine that's going out. So I'm trying to go ahead and make a little joke or two to the audience while being in this horrific situation. And I get this muffled voice from behind me. It's Buck Peden. Buck's tie got caught on the string or something with the screen. And so he's back. He's, Bob, I'm caught in the screen. I just kind of like wave back to him and say, just hang on, we'll be done. The next thing I know, the projector goes falling on the floor sideways. Barney Sterling goes sideways. He's down. He had a stroke, and he died about a week later from a stroke.
No shit, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I don't know whether to run for Barney and help him, leave the screen with Buck holding on to it because he would be flying up into the ceiling. I called to somebody. I said, hang on the Buck by his trousers or something because he's going to go skyward. And Barney's on the floor. The projector's going sideways. Fergie's now throwing pitches sideways. And Fergie thought when I raised my hand to somebody to help Barney, Fergie thought I gave him the signal to come in. And he's still pulling up his pants. There's two women that are waitresses walking with him coming in. And Fergie thinks that now he's being introduced. And I looked one last time behind me, and all I could think of, I caught a peek of Dallas, and I saw the image of Dallas back there, not saying a word, and all I could see was building a new tradition. We sure were. How I survived that day. I had two of my former newspaper guys that were in the audience. John Schuling was one of them, and Phil Hirsch. And they looked over, and they said, I felt so bad for you, Bob. I said, hopefully the evening sun will take you back in Baltimore because
out east they would call that a cluster.
A cluster.
That's a cluster.
So that's how my career started with the Chicago Cubs.
Well, if you could last through that.
Oh.
Real quick, if you could name, and we'll just name them real quick, all the coaches that are no longer here with us. And then obviously I got to ask you about a Yosh story, of course. But yeah.
Well, the guys, John Vukovic, Vuk, was one of the best, and I knew Vuk when he was in Philadelphia. He was on that 1980 team.
There's a lot of Cubs-Philly connections to this 84 team. Yeah.
Ruben Amaro was in the dugout as a bench coach. Okay.
And by the way, we are trying to get permissions from the Philadelphia Phillies for 3 or 4 guys, which we expect to get, obviously, but we got to work with the Phillies to make sure that some of these guys are here. You haven't yet
announced what we're here to talk about.
Well,
when you say we're getting permission, it might not make sense. For what?
Oh. But go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, we had Johnny Yotes in the team. He came along, and Billy Williams was our hitting coach when I first came on in. Billy was our hitting coach.
I remember him, yeah.
And we had Phil Koenig. We had a bunch of guys, and unfortunately, they've all passed.
Yeah.
Don Zimmer was there, with the Zim.
Right. I mean, I'd like to get all those pictures, all those guys' pictures up in the tent, even though they're not here, they're still here. And we also have some players on the team that are no longer here. Scott Sanderson was the last current Cub that passed, correct?
Tom Verizor, our backup shortstop,
right.
no longer here. And of course, as you mentioned, Scotty Sanderson. One of my favorites was Gary Woods, because Gary used to get so hyped up drinking coffee and a few other things before he went out on the field that after games I was in charge of tying his shoelaces because his hands would rattle so much he couldn't get them back on.
No shit.
But we had some just unbelievable guys. We lost George Fraser this current year.
Okay, yeah.
I was talking to Richie Hebner today. We were on. I thought it was going to.
So by the way, what's Richie Hebner do now? I thought that was interesting. So tell the listeners, because I thought it was awesome.
Richie, from 8:00 in the morning till 1:00 in the afternoon, drives a hearse. His father, years ago, owned a. I started to say a funeral home. I was going to call it a salon, but no, it was a funeral home. And Richie used to dig graves. He was a grave digger, and he says from between 10:00 in the morning, he says I'm in a hearse every day, Monday through Friday, driving the dead to their final resting spot. He says, and I said, Richie, would you like to come to our upcoming event? He says, please rescue me. I got to do something that's better than this every day. But he said one time when he was playing third base for Pittsburgh, and Willie Mays was coming around the bases, and he had to tag him out on a coach bang play at third base. And Willie looked up at him, and Willie didn't really know. He says, "Are you the guy that digs graves? Are you the grave digger?" He says, "Yeah, that's me." Willie broke out laughing. He didn't want to be around. The next day around the batting cage, when he saw Richie, he says, "No, you got to leave. You got to go. I don't want you around." But no, he's going to be one of the guys we'll be talking about, and he's a funny guy.
He's fun. I heard he's a great guy.
Oh, he's just wonderful. Yep.
So personally, I got to tell you guys, sorry, I'm never told on the podcast, but me, my mom, my brother, and my father, we headed down to St. Louis to watch the Cubs clinch. And it was a very hot weekend in St. Louis, and I believe there was a doubleheader. And maybe on Sunday there was a doubleheader, or maybe on Saturday. I think the Cubs had to win 3 games. I think they only won 2, and then they end up in Pittsburgh. But I can tell you that sitting in the bleachers with my mom, my dad, and my brother wearing our Cubby Bear hats, which actually sits upon the display case in the Club 400 condo, one of my favorite moments ever. I remember my mom and dad got up really early to go get tickets because they sold tickets day of game back then. And they left me and my brother in the room. And my mom came back and they could not get us out of the hotel room because me and my brother were sleeping. So it took us three hours after they went and got us tickets. But that memory, I can tell you, my dad really wanted to drive to Pittsburgh the next day. And my mom, I think, stopped him. But that whole weekend will go down as one of my favorite family vacations ever, to go down to St. Louis and be there as a family. And the Cubs were on a roll and they're about ready to clinch it. And then to come home the next day and watch the Cubs clinch it in Pittsburgh with Rick Sutcliffe pitching a complete game shutout. Joey Davis throws his fist down. Don Zimmer run out of the dugout, and there's one hell of a party in Pittsburgh. Let's talk about that, Bob. What happened that night? I mean, I see the videos, I've seen the parties, I see the players coming in from the dugout, and you're giving them high fives. But what did that night mean? Harry Carey comes down. You had everybody there. You had Lou Bujo down there. That was one of the greatest. You were in one of the greatest Cubs situations. The World Series is one thing, but that team and what it meant to Chicago, you were in one of the greatest situations of all time. And tell us what that whole entire experience meant to you.
Well, it was the first and only time to this date that I had champagne dumped on me. Now my son, who is the assistant general manager of the Tampa Bay Rays,
and thriving.
Experienced that in the 2020 World Series when they played the Dodgers and lost to them. But he got when they clinched and went into the series.
Kevin Ibach, awesome guy.
Kevin's done a heck of a job for them. He's been with them for 12 years.
Bob is a closet Tampa Bay. Well, I don't know. Are you a bigger Tampa Bay fan now, Bob, or what?
I
I don't blame you if you are. You have the right to be.
I love the Chicago Cubs. They'll always be in my heart, but I have to, with my son.
It's your son, yeah.
Now, if they, I had a tough time when the Rays came to Wrigley Field last year, and of course the Cubs took 2 out of 3 from them, and they Rays barely won that last game on my birthday, and it was tough. I mean, because being in Wrigley Field, I never rooted against the Chicago Cubs, but it's my son.
Yeah.
It's like so.
I always do it this way because I have the same conflict with the Twins. Because I grew up cheering for them. I always look at whoever needs the win more. Yeah. That's what I'm cheering for.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, if they ever met in the World Series, I probably would go to a different country and not watch it or something because I don't know how to do it.
I think Bob's not to interrupt you, but I think Bob's being a little bit humble about Kevin. I mean, as you guys know, everybody that listens to this podcast is a baseball fan. The success that a small market team has had, and Kevin, it's been unbelievable. I mean, I know we're talking about the '84 Cubs, but you got to be so proud of your son and what he's been able to accomplish. Like, he is one of the revered guy. Like, people are trying to steal him. Cubs.
He had a few offers this past offseason, and I think that's what prompted them to keep him and retain him there. But he loves the Tampa Bay. He loves to be able to go out and scout. And his biggest thing is he likes to find players that people have given up on. And if they tweak the pitching motion or they tweak his batting style and his approach, his setup, then he turn him into a whole different kind of a player. And some of it's based on analytics or whatever. But, I mean, he went and found a pitcher one time. The ultimate was down in Florida. He found a pitcher that had gotten out of baseball. And Kevin had seen him pitch a few years before, and now he was selling those things at a Costco down there. The tiles, you put on the roof, okay? And he'd gotten out of baseball. And Kevin ran into him. He says, "What? Did you quit baseball?" He says, "I can't do it anymore. I gave up. I've got to get a life." And Kevin says, "Well, when I saw you pitch about maybe 8 months ago, your fastball had improved, your location had improved, and everything else." He says, "Tell you what, why don't you get yourself into shape? In a month, I'll be back. I want to watch you throw." Well, this kid came back in a month, and he started throwing. Kevin says, "I want to sign you to a minor league contract." And they sent him off to either Montgomery or maybe Bowling Green. And within a month later, he was brought up in August and pitched and saved 4 or 5 critical games for the Rays. And at the end of the year, he got offered a $2 million contract to pitch in Japan, which he had to take. He says, "Kevin, I want to stay here." But he says, they're going to give me, I think, $600,000 at the time, based compared to $2.5 million. He says, "I got to go back." So I think he's still over in Japan his second year. But I want to go back because you would ask the question.
Yes, about the '84 Cubs. Yeah,
and
I didn't mean I was thinking about that how I diverted, but William, I'm good at that.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad we got back on track, Bob.
Yeah, go back.
But I am proud of your son, and I got to meet him at your anniversary party, and he's just a great kid, and I had to bring that up. So
no, not a problem.
It's very smart.
I appreciate that. Well, he didn't get it from me. Probably got it from my wife Vera, not from me. But that night in Pittsburgh, I'll never forget, because the Pirates did something really special as we were celebrating. And have the champagne being poured over us inside, and everybody's jumping up and down. It's just an amazing feeling of look, we started out and now we accomplished this as a group. They said, "You know what, they're cheering, they're going crazy back in Chicago." Well, the Pirates brought our team back onto the field and let us sit on a mound and in the infield, and they put the scene from WGN and everything going crazy at Clark and Addison with all the people climbing up and going crazy there, so we could watch it and soak that in.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was a memory we all kept. And, of course, we went back to the Hilton Hotel afterwards on the bus, and we celebrated at the hotel. And it was now getting to be about 1 o'clock in the morning. I get a call from Good Morning America, and they wanted 4 or 5 of our players on the next day. Well, it was that day, and they needed to have them in a limousine ready to go at 5 o'clock in the morning. So now Bob Ibeck's got to go around and go up to guys like Dernier and Samber. They were running away from me when I asked this question. But I said, now listen, guys, I need you guys. I think it was Moreland went on, Denier, Boa, Sandberg. I think I got those 4, and Sarge. And I said, if you're not, I'm going to have security come in and pull you out of the bed. You're going on the show. The limo's going to. So these guys come down, and their eyes look like slits.
Yeah, I wonder why. We kind of know, right, William?
Yeah. I don't know.
What happens at Club 400 stays at Club 400. We've heard the other story on the other side of that.
Well, I heard from somebody behind the scenes. I heard from somebody behind the scenes at Good Morning America that it took an extra 15 or 20 minutes in the makeup room to get these guys looking like they just didn't look like ghosts.
Oh, my gosh.
But we went from there, and that topped everything off. And, of course, then we come back. We finish out the season. And the first 2 games in the playoffs against San Diego, now we're thinking we're going to go to the World Series. And we're headed out to San Diego. And, of course, we lose that first game out there. And then there was a day off in between. And when I talked to Larry Boa and some of the other guys years later, they all said, we needed that day off to sit around the swimming pool and just talk baseball, have a couple drinks, and get relaxed again. But no, Dallas Green's wife and Sylvia and Jim Fry's wife, Joan, they had other ideas because there was some of the people brought their families out, the wives and the kids. So off we went the next day on this off day to try to forget about what happened in Game 3, and we're going to the San Diego Zoo. And we're going out to the SeaWorld or whatever that place is, and we're looking at animals. And
wait, this is on the off day?
Yeah.
The whole team is doing this?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yes, yeah. We were.
So you're at the zoo. Is it hot?
All we were doing was looking at monkeys and zebras and giraffes.
I wonder why, though. This is so dumb.
I know. It was a family trip to relax everybody. Well, looking back, we said, oh, boy. And the other thing was, Trout really wanted to pitch, Game 5, and everybody this day said, it shouldn't have been such, because such should have been close them out on Game 4.
Right.
And
there's a lot of people that didn't like the way Elia handled the pitching.
And the thing,
and you guys had no call back then, not like nowadays. They would have called down and said, "Hey, no, you do this." Back then, it was all Lee.
Well, I remember that 5th game, and I'm a very superstitious person. And in about the 5th inning, we're ahead, and I get a call from the National League saying, "Bob, you got to go downstairs and help Yosh and get the stand set up." And Yosh is putting all the protection across the lockers. And I said, "This game's not over. I don't want to go down. I don't want to change anything." Well, you've got to go down, okay? So I went downstairs and, against my better judgment, went down the elevator. I'm walking into our locker room, and then I hear cheers going on. And I'm thinking, what's going on? So I said, I got to get out of here. I went back upstairs. I got up there just in time to see the ball go through Durham's legs. And it was just amazing. I mean, when it was over, I took that ride back in the elevator, get in the locker room, and all I could see was guys sitting on these big old, luggage chests, okay, that Yosh had. And we're just sitting there staring at each other. Nobody's saying a word. Some guys you could see they're crying. Other guys just had their head down. Dallas is just sitting there. His head was straight down. And then you could hear down the hallway, it was only 90 yards away, you could hear the Padres cheering. And it just, it just broke our hearts. Now we get back into the bus. The fans are out there pounding on the bus yelling Ghostbusters. Remember that song?
Oh, yeah.
All
right.
That was the song, the rally song out there.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I didn't know that.
And then we fly home, and we get to O'Hare and land, and 5 buses were going to take some of the players in this direction. Some went back to the main terminal. I was on a bus that was going back to Wrigley Field. And Boa was on that bus, and Sandberg, and I think Sarge, and a couple other ones to get our cars that were parked right outside Wrigley Field where the old
parking lot, yeah.
Well, the parking lot was there where the groundskeeper's house was, and across the street still is, the fire station. So we pull in. Nobody's saying a word. Nobody said a word. It was like the Kennedy funeral going back. So we get there, and all of a sudden it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and lights start going on in the firehouse, and had to be about 150 people come out. They had bed sheets, and some of them had hearts on it. We still love you. I still get emotional when I say that. We still love you, Cubs. And they had big hearts. And Larry Boa looked over at me. He started crying. I was crying. And he says, Bob, we let a whole city down. I don't know if I can deal with this. And for the next 2 or 3 days we went in, I had to go into work. These guys were going home. And went into the lunchroom. Nobody would sit down. They'd have lunch, leave, go back to their desks. We were all walking around like zombies. And on the third day, Dallas Green comes down the hallway and says, guys, let's get in here. And he takes his fist and he pounds it. I could still see him. And he says, we're done mourning. This is the day we turn the page, and we're going to have a great season in 1985. Now, he says, you know what? We've had 3 days to mourn. Back to work. Let's make it happen. And you know what? Everybody turned around, put the energy right back in, and we started 85. And we were in first place by about 6 games in June, and then all of our pitchers went down. Sutcliffe got hurt, pulled a hamstring in Atlanta. I can still see him going up the first base line, pulled a hamstring. Trout goes down. Ruthven went down. Everybody went. Sanderson got hurt, and Eckersley got hurt. And before long, I think we were like 36-15.
Yeah.
And we get to July, and I'm sitting in the conference room because every Monday we had a conference with all the heads of each department, and Dallas is sitting next to me. Now, we've been going out looking at pitchers that I didn't even know their names, some of them, and they were pitching from us. We went from first place to last place, but I had to hear Don Granesco, who was president at that time. He's sitting at the end, and we're going around. Everybody's describing what's going on in their department. So I talked about what's going on in PR. Dallas didn't have much to say about some of the new players coming up. And Granesco says, well, I'm happy to report that this past homestand was one of the greatest in Cubs history. I think we went 1-8, and we're looking around, and Dallas took me and he kicked me under the table. He says, that's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with the mentality of the Tribune Company. He says, and Granesco goes on to say, we sold so many beers, we sold so many bags of peanuts. He says, that's it. This is over. This is not going to happen. And within a couple of years, he was gone. And Gordy Goldsberry, the architect of our minor league system, had produced so many great guys. And some of those guys that were on that team, like Dunston, and Maddox, were there in 89, which got us to the playoffs that year. And of course, we lost. There was an earthquake, and we ended up losing to San Francisco. But that was tough. And Dallas moved on. He wanted me to. I got a call from George Steinbrenner, and Dallas was the manager now of the New York Yankees. And I was raised in New York. My dream was always to go back and be in the Yankee organization. But he told me, Bob, I can't protect you up here. He says, Steinbrenner, I'm not going to last more than a year and a half. He says, and I can't protect you. Don't move your family up here. Don't do that to them. So I turned that opportunity down, and I went with Kemper Sports and ran their sports division for 6 years and had a good career with them until I started my own company in 1996.
Yeah. You've been there and you've seen it all. I would argue, I mean, honestly, I think about Chicago Cubs and what they meant to Chicago and what they meant to, I don't think there's a team that had a bigger impact on a city that didn't win the championship than the 84 Cubs. I think and that's why we celebrate. That's why we will celebrate the 84 Cubs, because what they meant to the city, what they meant to Wrigley Field, what they meant to the whole area. And Bob, working on this event with you is truly an honor. And I know that no matter what, we're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna have a lot of share a lot of special memories, and just getting the guys back together one last time. Life is short. We need to celebrate life every single day that we can, and to get these guys together in an environment with the fans, because Club 400 is all about Cub fans helping Cub fans, guys. And I want to let you know, I met with Jim Boykovich at the Cubs, and he's awesome, guys. He's so unbelievable. I want to thank him because he could be the opposite, but he isn't. And he supports us, and the Cubs are really starting to support us now, and I appreciate it. We talked. Me and Jim talked today about how much the Cubs meant to the city, and they got a lot of great things planned that weekend, and they're bringing in all the guys, and we're just going to piggyback off that.
So is this the big announcement?
Well,
are you making it?
The June 25th, Club 400 presents the 1984 Chicago Cubs. All right,
I've been waiting all day for that.
I know. So, Bob, let's do this real quick. Let's run down. I mean, me and Bob and Tony Garofalo, who's not with us here tonight. Obviously, Tony Garofalo is the trainer, and he's a good friend of Bob's, one of Bob's great friends. Great storyteller, right, William?
Oh, he's got some stories.
Oh, he's got some good ones. And we have met 4 or 5 times, and we've been putting this together for a long time, and we are definitely working with the Cubs to throw in a great event for all you guys so you can celebrate the 84 team with the players yourself. So the event is going to take place Tuesday, June 25th at Club 400 here in Lake in the Hill. So let's go through the lineup real quick, and we'll talk about who's going to be here at Club 400. And we still have some people to add on.
Well,
right,
we
Bob?
added on one today. Richie Hebner's going to be there. I think we got about 13 players, but I'll let you go ahead and we'll go do a roll call.
Okay, let's start at catching. All right, Jody Davis, one of my great friends. Obviously, Jody's done a lot of stuff with Club 400. Supports us.
Jody Davis,
King of the Wild Frontier. Jody Davis, catcher without a fear. He'll be here. Obviously, Leon Durham, the Bull, will be here.
I talked to Bull. He and his wife Angela are coming. He wouldn't miss it, and he's looking forward to it. And he lives in Ohio in the Cincinnati area. And Bull I've had a chance to talk to him over the years, and I know he was back here a couple years ago at Club 400.
Right.
And he remembers that, and he's looking forward to seeing all his brothers.
Yeah, and Ryan Sammer, we've talked to Steve, who works with Ryan closely. He's going to be there if his health allows him to, so he's all in. It's day-to-day like we all are. Our shortstop that year, Larry Boa, he's pretty much in 90%, and he's kind of like the lines of Gary Matthews.
He works for Philadelphia now.
Yeah.
Does some assistant work there and does some things with him. So I know him and Sarge and Dickie Knowles will be here. All 3 of them do work. Dickie works in the community services thing, so they got to get the okay.
Right.
But all 3 of them said that it should be done, and we're hoping that they can also bring with them Dick Ruthven.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, like we said, a lot of Phillies connections. We think that because it's a Monday, Tuesday, we shouldn't have any issues. Have we got a hold of Ron Say yet?
No, we have not got.
But we have his digits.
We have his digits. We're going to try to get him. Another guy that was in history. Many people think of the Sandberg game, but some people forget who actually won that game. Dave Owen. He'll be in the house. Yep. Dave lives in Dallas with his wife. They're coming up. He can't wait to get here and do that. Tim Stoddard. One of our great relief pitchers that year will be with us.
Steve Trout.
If he doesn't get on a bicycle, he'll get here.
Gary Matthews, he's with the Phillies crew.
The Sarge will be here.
Bobby D
in center field. With Sandberg and Bobby D, that set the table every game that season. And I'm hoping Ned Coletti, my former assistant, will be here. Ned's got to go overseas on July the 1st, but he's going to make every effort to be here. Steve Green, the team photographer, who many, many people know. He just retired from the Cubs a couple years ago. Steve and his wife are going to be here. Sharon Panazzo lives out in Arizona. She will be here.
Well, Warren Brewster will be here.
Warren Brewster will be coming in from the West Coast. And so we've got about, I think, 13 or 14 guys. And
with invites pending, too.
Yeah, these are invites pending. We only had 2 no's. And you know what? Keith Moreland was one of them because he's going to Europe for 2 weeks. It's a vacation he had planned a long time ago. But we did talk to Keith, and we hope to get him at a Club 400 event down the line. He was a no. Dennis Eckersley can't make it either.
He's got some TV obligations out on the West Coast.
Yeah. And besides that, those are the only no's we have. Lee Smith, same thing with his Rhino day-to-day. But obviously, he's been to Club 400. He's been a part of our fantasy camp, too. They're all in, depending on his health, but we expect him to be here also. So, yeah, we have a lot of great players. You know, we haven't got to some of the guys. We haven't talked to Rick Sutcliffe. A lot of the guys we still trying to get hold. If we haven't mentioned them, we haven't got a hold of them, or we're trying to find them. If anybody knows how we get a hold of Thad Bosley, Henry Cotto, Ron Hassey. By the way, we got a hold of Steve Lake today. Yep, we did. The Cubs did.
How's he doing?
He wants to come.
Oh,
yes,
good,
he wants to come.
Good.
Davey Lopes is not doing well. I think he's suffering from.
Davey said Davey, through a source out in Arizona, is going to be giving me a call to talk about it.
Okay, so maybe he might come. I know he is dealing with some health issues. These guys are getting older. Obviously, Dave Owen, he's coming. Rich Bordy, we're looking for him.
We're looking for Rich. We're trying to find him. And I've had a call into the out in Arizona. They have the Alumni Association. And I've talked to a lady out there who's been very cooperative in trying to track down some leads for us. And if we can find a phone number for these guys that we haven't been able. Because you got to remember, they didn't have cell phones in those days. So nobody kept notes and information on how to get a hold of people. You know?
And like I said, I talked to Jim this morning, and he doesn't even. The Cubs don't even have some of these numbers because let's say even Bob obviously has been working with Major League Baseball for a while. We've reached out to Major League Baseball Alumni Association, and even their information isn't updated, right? These guys change numbers, locations, whatever else. So if anybody has any, that's the whole thing, guys. We definitely want to get these guys together, and the last thing we want to do is forget somebody or not be able to get a hold of them. Our main goal is to let them know about it and let them have the opportunity to attend and share the celebration with you guys. And that's so. If there's TTM, that's autograph writing in. If anybody has any information on those guys, we'd love to have it.
And I have to add that and Tony Garofalo has been very good in this. There's going to be a couple items that when you come out to and you buy your ticket for this event, that you're going to get, and
as part of your grab bag, right?
As part of your grab bag. Yeah. Those will be items that you'll cherish forever. And I think you said you'll be allowed to bring out one item that you want signed that day.
Yeah, so there's going to be so much stuff going on here. By the way, we just booked our band. The Pino Freno band is coming out here. I think I said that correctly. Obviously, Marty the Salsa King of Chicago. We booked them, and they're an awesome local band. They're playing Van Halen Jump, man. That's the main thing. I mean, but the guys are awesome. They're willing to work with us. They're going to play a lot of great music. And we're going to have a great catering that night, and it's going to be an unbelievable event. But we're going to just basically, it's a free-for-all, you guys, for about an hour and a half, Bring your item that you want to get autographed. We'll have a finalized list before the event so you can grab your items, but good luck. We're not going to have it's going to be pretty loose. It's like basically going to a party with 15, 20 Cub players there in the front office and just have at it. But there will be a designated time for that. And then when that designated time is over, we're going to free up. We're going to do other things. We're going to do Q&As, and we're going to do a lot of amazing things.
Who's doing the Q&A?
Oh, we forgot. The voice of Wrigley Field, Wayne Mesmer, will be our host for the evening. So it'll be having Wayne there means a lot to me as a Cub fan growing up. His voice was the sound of Wrigley Field, and he actually was the guy upstairs. What do you call that? He was what's his name?
Paprocki.
Yeah, yeah, he's German. He did it all. He sang the national anthem. He did, and to have him here, to me, he is the voice of Wrigley Field. It means a lot to me, and he's excited about it too. So a lot of great things going on. Tickets are on sale tomorrow for Club 400 members only. The Club 400 Elite. If you listen to this podcast, it's for you tonight. The password, Bob. What is the password? I'm going to let you pick the password. Just pick one word password.
The password is.
Password is 198423.
Ooh, I like it. 1984-23 will be the pre-sale passcode.
You better write that down so you don't.
I think I can remember that one. If you want to buy tickets tomorrow, that would be April 18th. General tickets will go on sale Friday. We expect to sell out. So buy your tickets ASAP. We can't wait. It's going to be an unbelievable event. Like I said, Club 400 is definitely going to we're breaking records. We're not just bringing one player out here. We're bringing a whole damn team, and we're bringing the team that really made me a Cub fan, and I'm so honored to bring these guys out here and to be able to pull this event off. It means just as much, if not more. It actually means more than Sammy coming to my house, because this is the reason why I'm a Cub fan. To have these guys here.
Remind people, this is a limited edition.
Yeah.
We're not letting the whole world come in here.
Right.
I think we set a limit on, 200?
Yeah, people? 200 tickets. There's only 200 tickets to be sold. So look at the quotient, or what do you call it, ratio? There's 15 players, 15 to 20 players, and 200 people here. Look at that ratio. You guys are going to have a great night. You guys are going to get to hang with these guys.
That's like 1 to 10.
Pretty much. Yeah, is that right, William?
And you know what? Father's Day is right around that same time in the month. What a great Father's Day gift you could give to a Cub fan.
All right. And like I said, we don't even have all the details. We just put this together pretty quickly, and we wanted to piggyback off the Ryan Sandberg statue. Our great guy, Lou Sella, going to put another awesome statue at Statue Row at beautiful Gallagher Way in Chicago. But yeah, buy your tickets tomorrow. Do not wait. This will sell out. We expect this to be our fastest sellout in Club 400 history. And I say this was the biggest podcast we've ever done on Club 400. This is the biggest podcast we've ever done, William. And I'm proud to have Mr. Bob I back here with us. And just so you Club 400 members know, Kathy Weedley, who does unbelievable work for us and has helped us out so much and has helped me out so much, also is a goddaughter to Bob's daughter, Kelsey, who was involved in an accident long ago. And all the wonderful work that Kathy Wheatley does, the money goes straight to Kelsey. And I just want to let you guys know that connection with Bob and Kathy. We wish Kathy the best right now. She's on her way home from Arizona, and Wego is not really feeling that well. So
I got a good report today on
you
Wego.
did? Oh, that's good.
Yep, he had surgery last night, and he's responding well to surgery. Kathy called late last night. She spent the whole night over at the dog hospital out there.
Cool.
And as soon as they get the update, they'll be headed back from Arizona back to Chicago. So keep Kathy and Wego in your prayers.
Yeah, safe drive home for Kathy. I mean, she's done so much. Hey, anybody that came out to our Club 400 tailgate in Mesa, Arizona, benefited from Kathy Wheatley. She brought the beer. She brought the salsa. She brought it all. So, Kathy Wheatley, you're in our prayers. Be safe. We love you. Club 400, we did it again. 1984 Cubs reunion. Are you guys ready? I know I am. I know Bob is. I know Tony is. And I definitely know William, without his goatee, is definitely ready to go. About 40 pounds less. We'll see you soon. Tickets on sale tomorrow. We love you guys. We are Cub fans helping Cub fans.